Welcome to Bible Over Brews, deep thoughts fermented over time and text. I'm coming at you, Aaron Crew Juice Viverka, and I've got Gumby.
Hola.
I've got Edward.
Hola.
I've got Russ.
How you doing?
And I've got Mike.
Howdy.
Tonight we're going to be going over a vegan versus carnivore. It's the ankylosaur versus the T-Rex.
Oh, I didn't even hear that one.
Yeah, paleontology.
Dinosaurs.
Paleontology.
Yes, we're
Yeah,
talking about dinosaurs.
One of those ologies.
Yes. So tonight we're going over all the ologies.
Every single
This
one.
is gonna be a long night.
So, but before we start on that, we've got Market Garden Pin High Pilsner. This Czech-inspired Pilsner is brewed with a blend of European pale malts and spicy Saaz hops to form a crisp, well-rounded beer. Brewed in partnership with the Cleveland Metro Parks, a portion of this product's proceeds will be donated to support youth golf educational programs at Cleveland Metro Parks golf courses. It has an ABV of 4.8.
Nice.
Valid.
Nobody reads it like you, Aaron.
Thank you, sir.
Nobody. I did think of you, though. I saw a check.
Golf skills or life skills, you know?
You know, as being
Tell you something.
the Czech of the group.
You are tested on the golf course in a lot of facets.
So, Russ,
Yes,
being
sir.
a consummate golfer,
Yes.
how deeply ingrained is beer and golf?
I think they're interchangeable. At least how I play.
So this does have it's heady.
One
It-
begets the other, I think, though, because so even when you play well, you still could use a little bit of licking your wounds with some beers
Some liquid
during
courage.
and after a round.
Might be a good excuse at sometimes. And I gotta point out the can here. It's like custom. It's got texture. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is that a wrap?
I love the fact they always have the
Yes.
the Guardian, the
Oh, yeah.
Guardian on
of
top
traffic.
Oh yeah.
of it. It's a nice green. I like the forest green they chose.
Pin high. What a great.
And I'm really feeling the pin high, you guys.
Yeah.
Just kidding. JK,
Obviously,
JK.
pin
I don't know
high,
what that
that's
is.
the ode to golf.
Oh, I got that.
Yeah.
I like their hashtag. Beer for people.
Ah.
Okay, that covers a couple.
Right,
right.
keeping your options open.
Hey, that's.
Yeah, I did not enjoy the beer for dogs.
But it was a lot more
It was
fun.
an acquired.
This is good.
Yeah.
This is like is a very subtle. It's nothing gonna punch you in the face. You know the ABV and.
Yep.
But it's good.
It has a nice aroma on the top end. It's not not punch your face, right?
Right.
It's not a boxer's beer, right?
I like it out of the can. See if I like it in the glass.
It's not.
Right. Yeah.
It's not. It's certainly not leaving anything harsh aftertaste wise.
No.
Like a low end, like Busch Light or Miller Light or something like that, where it's kind of like. Yeah.
It doesn't
Kinda
have
goes
any
away.
dilution at all. You can really tell it's a crafty
Yeah.
feel to it.
It has a robust overtone, but there's nothing on the back end to hit you. And that's good, I think, for a pilsner, right? So,
Yeah. I mean, there's you can taste the hops. You know,
Yeah,
for a
like
Pilsner.
in the high palate right before your throat. That
Yep.
part you can definitely get that.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say you get that hoppy taste, but then it goes right away.
Yeah.
It
Right.
doesn't linger
No.
like an
Definitely not
IPA.
pale ale.
I like the Cleveland Metro Parks thing though, and it's got like topography on there. Like
that is pretty sweet.
Yeah,
It's
like
pretty
nice. It's a
neat.
really cool can.
Yeah, it's cool. And the Metro Parks, you gotta give them credit, man. They've really been hitting home runs.
love the Metro Parks.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
but
one thing I missed when I left Ohio.
the restaurants and the trails and all the investment they've done over the last 5 years have been
Hands down.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, Northeast Ohio is a great place for parks right now.
Yeah.
True that.
Actually, arguably one of the better in the country. So,
And I think that was a good thing when they took over the lakefront.
hands down, because it's actually
Gotten
fun and
way
safe
better.
now. Not that it wasn't safe before, but let's just. If we admit there
It
were some
has a
things
better
going on
reputation.
there, there was a few things going on
You
there.
talk about the East Bank, the
No,
flats, or the
I'm more referring to
the beach.
The beaches.
the
Yep.
water-
Oh.
Exactly. And I've always loved Edgewater. I've spent many a summer on it, but there was a few shady things in
It's
the
gotten
background.
better
going
under.
on. So
Yeah, Cleveland Metro.
No more syringes floating around.
yeah.
Let's
Cleveland-
not
not unmanned
even
anyway.
spread
The syringes
this. This
just
is going
like, there's
everywhere.
some people manning syringes. I don't know.
I got you. Yeah. All right.
It has a nice mouthfeel to it too. It's kind of soft on the mouthfeel. It's
Don't
Yeah.
say that. Does anyone else that's
That's a thing. I've
is
heard
a-
it
is it
more.
a thing? Does it have to be a thing?
It is
I've heard it
you're
more
right,
I mean, I
it
know.
is a
I
thing.
thought that was more like for.
I've heard it
food,
more for
like-
wine. It's more for wine mouthfeel.
I think
but it's applicable. I think you can get away with it, but it sounds a little
Okay,
weird.
fine.
It doesn't
I'll
take
allow
away
it.
from the
So-
weird factor.
sign up for your Cicerone. Okay, so there's Cicerone beer tasting classes. So
All right.
and they will go over all of that. In fact, there's some free ones on YouTube.
Market Garden is really awesome. Have you guys been there?
Yes,
definitely.
I really like
It's
it.
been a while.
Yeah, it's really cool there.
Flavor.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's the nice thing when you get a Pilsner that has a good flavor to it, something that actually says, "Hey, I'm a beer." That's it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
All right,
We must tip our hat to your people, Aaron.
thank you, sir.
Well done.
Yes, and history right here, ready? History lesson.
Oh, boy.
The Pilsner was defined by the Czech people. So
I thought you were going to say the Catholic Church. Okay.
no, they were just the sponsors.
And our first religious reference of the night, right there. So
Might be the only one.
we are Bible over
I have another
Brews,
one.
so we
I have
have to
another
have that.
There is another one that we brought up later, but
We did talk about that because Pilsner Lager. I was always like, which is which, because sometimes they list like Miller Lite in a lager, and sometimes they put it as a Pilsner. So, Crew Juice actually educated me as to which is which.
thank you, sir. Yeah, and there's some of them kind of cross lines a little bit, but there are defined, Pilsner. Man, now there's so many crossovers.
Well, yeah, that
Now I'm
list
sitting here
has really
thinking, I'm like,
increased,
hold
hasn't
on, there's several crossovers in this one.
Well, it's kind of like, what is it, bourbon? Like, it's only bourbon if it's produced in a certain
Right.
state with a certain barrel.
it? Yes, yes.
But it's scotch if it's not, but it's the same exact thing, something like that.
I know the reference, but like you, it's like I know that, but I don't remember the exact detail.
Well, like whiskey, is there an E or is there not an E?
I'm going to eat.
It only has an E if you're in
there's an E.
Kentucky or something like that.
So get this, ready? If it's from Ireland or America, there's an E. If it's from anywhere else, no E.
What?
Canadian, huh?
My whole life has been a lie.
Wait.
What was that
Your
thing?
whole life has been a lie.
So in Canada, they don't put an E in whiskey. Do they put an A in whiskey?
Oh!
Where's the bell? Hey, where's the
Outstanding.
bell? Oh, there's behind you.
We're gonna get emails about that.
Oh, we'll definitely get emails about that.
What was that? The Mandela effect. What was that one where things that you remember your whole life, all of a sudden you can't remember exactly how they were.
That's the Mandela effect.
We were
Yep.
talking about that the other night. So
Yes,
maybe
we
that's
were.
what you're thinking.
All of a sudden you
is
can't
there
remember-
an E whiskey or is there not an E? Maybe there always
I
was.
thought that
an
was
E.
a false memory.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
So I think their whole E or no E, I think that's all the Mandela effect. Sorry, we're twisting early. We're gonna.
Yeah, we are. All right, so let's jump on into it. So there's a few topics that we presupposed, and they're going to cross over each other. They really are. Yeah, one thing's going to lead to the other, and the other thing will be referenced back to the first thing. But there's kind of a couple of different topics that we wanted to venture into. One of those I think was actually just weight loss. So, what you got, Mike?
I think weight loss for me, so I'd like to give a little background, and I'd like to, the rest of us here to kind of get background of where you stand dietary-wise, and how I kind of came to be a defender of the carnivore diet. I'm not personally a carnivore dieter, but I do subscribe to a lot of what they believe, and I would categorize myself more of the anti-vegan approach for several reasons. This is a hardline saying. I think I have no problem with a personal vegan. I just have a problem with a lot of the vegan agenda that gets pushed out to the masses.
So I do have to agree with you on that. I think there's way too much hate spewed going in actually in either direction, because I see it from both sides. I see the carnivore side demonizing vegans, and I see vegans demonizing the carnivore side instead of trying to people come to an understanding of what's actually taking place. So yeah, I agree.
Well, let's
Yeah.
pretend not to get along.
Okay.
I guess from the excuse me, I had a bubble. I guess from the vegan side, my pushing my agenda doesn't end in death for a lot of things that don't want to die. So I'll start it with that.
Yeah. No,
So that's what pushed you
valid.
towards more.
Yeah,
Are you vegan?
Yeah. It's a slide rule. Unfortunately, I'm not as strong, but I was a vegan for a while, and then I'm vegetarian, so I kind of slide between vegan and vegetarian. And that's more, I guess, from lazy, for the lack of better.
So no, I'm saying you're probably more like dairy.
Yeah, I don't do dairy.
No dairy.
I don't do dairy. I do eggs, and then I kind of flexed here and there with fish every once in a while. But for the most part, like, if it's an easy choice. If you put 2 plates in front of me and say one's vegan, one isn't, I'll go with the vegan one every time. But just sometimes I'll be like, F it, I'm gonna have this. Or that.
Sometimes murder is okay for you.
Sometimes murder is okay. Yes.
Okay.
Out of my convenience, yes.
Gotcha.
That won't come back to haunt you.
Edward,
What about me?
where do you stand dietary?
Well, I eat meat. I probably eat too much. I eat everything. I've been eating my feelings.
So
Since COVID came, I've been
Don't eat
eating
the
everything.
can that the beer came in.
Right.
please,
No,
Edward.
I mean, it does. It's a really nice can, but I'm
We're
not.
avoiding aluminum, remember.
Right.
We're
I'm
not
trying
going
to cut
goat.
So you're on the seafood diet. You see it.
that. Basically.
You eat it.
Yeah. I do not like seafood, though.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I will eat food if I see it.
Gotcha.
I've never met a cake that I don't like. Yeah. Anything like that.
But that is a good
I
point.
almost
I need
spit out
to-
when I heard you say that.
I need to
That is a good point.
rein it in.
I'm definitely a meat proponent. There it is.
Yeah.
I like wings.
Oh, as in you
No,
enjoy
you
it,
like
not
fish.
I do love fish. Yes. I don't feel good if I cut meat out.
I think that's where I stand. Well, like as far as other people, so I'm probably not gonna have much input tonight because I feel like kind of a food libertarian, where it's like
Love that term.
you eat what you gotta eat. If it makes you feel good, good for you.
Well, in the vegan's defense here, though, or a very strong plant-based defense, I would say that I probably never gave it a chance, so to speak.
Well, that's what I was going to
try.
ask. How did you do it when you didn't?
So
You said you didn't feel good if you didn't. Chances are you probably weren't getting what you should have. And-
I do intermittent fasting,
Okay.
so everything gets cut out up until a certain point. But I found one of the things that I first needed to kind of rejuvenate my body was, not leafy greens. I needed protein. So, I don't know.
Well, that's that.
Oh, yeah.
I
Boy,
know.
Don't dive into
Oh my gosh! No.
weight loss.
From
First
me.
Aaron, though.
Doors are opening.
me.
I'm sorry. I won't.
I like having energy after 6 p.m.
Oh, we can touch on protein all day. Anyway,
Yeah, I was gonna say like that will come up. I think.
Yeah.
so there has been quite a few studies done. I'm going to reference one here that was done.
But you stand where dietarily, first of all?
So dietarily, I am currently, because I give myself long times to adjust. Long times. As you know, I was pescatarian for about 3-ish years. I've been vegetarian for going on 2 years. So as you can tell, it's taken me 5 years to get where I currently am, right? So maybe a little more. Trying to use my head for math, which is a terrible idea. But if we go back and look, it's about a bit of 5-ish years when we get to this point. Because I like to give my body time to adjust to lifestyle changes. I mean, I live a fast-paced life. Between my daytime job and telecommunications, I'm always out in the elements, all hours of day and night. Then I also do, we do Muay Thai, and then, plus whatever I do on the weekends, right? So I live in a lot of high-stress times, so I like to give my body time to adjust to each diet change.
And currently, are you 100% vegan?
So, no. Now, my information will be based on veganism because I said you go hardcore Yeah, carnivore. I'll go hardcore vegan, but really meeting closer in the middle. I'm vegetarian, but I'd say approximately 60 to 80% of my diet on a given week is vegan.
Okay.
So I would give myself that ratio.
And so, Russ and Aaron, what percentage are you leaning vegan because of health reasons versus animal suffering, animal rights? Like, what is your 50-50, or are you more just like, oh, it's a healthier diet, or is it going to save what's your main?
I'll let Russ go first.
I'm pretty much 100% the moral portion of it. The health part is like a benefit of it. But yeah, mine. I was the guy that we all watched those horrible movies back when we were in our teens and 20s, and we're like, oh, I can't go to Taco Bell after watching that. And a few days or weeks later, then you're back to it normal. But I was educated, so to speak, or exposed to some things as I was. It's been 8 years now that I've been vegetarian, vegan, whatever, and just I happen to see that again, and I basically, from the things that I saw, I said I can't contribute to that anymore.
Gotcha.
And it flipped a switch off in my head. So to me, it's pretty much all the moral ground of it.
Cool. Gotcha. Aaron.
Yeah. I actually started as health problem. That's how I started. I was becoming gout infested, and I had trouble even using my hands at one point. So it started as a health concern. I was I'd already had several doctor's appointments. They couldn't figure it out because they said, well, you don't have arthritis. And so they did a secondary test, and they asked me to come in for a follow-up. So what I did was I started Googling things, because Google's great for stuff like that, right? So I started Googling things, and I said, there's got to be a natural way to find out what this is. So it dawned on me that both of my grandfathers had gout. So I was like, wait a minute, I wonder if it can happen. Because they both had it in their feet, right? So I'm like, well, let's find out if it can get in your hands. Turns out that it's not as common, but you can get gout in your hands. And it met all the symptoms. I said, okay, that's why they're not turning up with any arthritis. It must be gout. Because it hits you differently in your body than it does arthritis. So I said, well, let's find out if there's a natural way to get rid of it. So I went online and I started Googling natural ways to cure gout. And I came across a really cool site that explained how gout was affecting your body. And they said there was only one way to get rid of it, 100%, go vegan. They said it has to be at least 4 weeks.
Who said this?
I'll pull the website up later. I forget what it was.
Oh, so it was a single website that kind of inspired you for that?
Those several websites. And the reason was solid. It said because uric acid. They said uric acid is what causes gout. It's what builds up in your joints. So I said, let's try it. I wanted a 100% vegan diet. My gout disappeared. Literally went away. Like within a week, it was almost back to normal. Within 2 to 3 weeks, gone. Just period, just gone. It's like, okay, well, that definitely worked. And so then after that, I started introducing one thing at a time back into my diet, because I said you have to make sure as you introduce something, you have to give it a week. If it doesn't spike, that's not causing it. So after I introduced each thing back into my diet, it was meat.
Gotcha.
Because every time I tried to eat meat, the gout came back. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to be eating meat. So red meat was the worst. Chicken took longer to take effect, but it also did.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so one thing at a time, I tried it out, and it was meat products. I did find out that fish did not affect me. So I was able to eat fish no problem, which is why I was pescatarian for 3 years.
Right.
And that's how I would supplement, was through fish. But then I started researching more after that, because I can never go halfway, right? that's anybody who knows me knows I can't go halfway. I do all the research I can on this topic now. So I started diving into all of the vegetarian lifestyle, why people do it. Maybe there's other health problems, maybe there's other health concerns. Then I started finding all this buttloads of research. It turns out that there was environmental impact. It turns out that there was humanitarian efforts. and I didn't know any, most of this. I didn't know. I mean, I had seen one or two videos I thought that were kind of arbitrary. Especially me, who was Czech and German. We didn't really pay attention to stuff that caused conflict with our diets. So ignore that side of life.
Sausage and noodles.
I was
What
gonna
can
say,
go
yeah, I
wrong?
don't
Exactly.
think that the Germans are very big into the vegan.
Right. So I just got into a habit of ignoring stuff that crept on my lifestyle, right? So, but then after starting doing the research, I was like, wow, this really is causing massive problems. And so I started doing more research, and so that's why and this was several years, which is what prompted me to go full vegetarian. I said, I can't do this anymore because I started looking at the fishing industry because I was eating fish. And after researching the fishing industry, I was
Right at
like,
me. Nice.
I was like, man, we are causing huge harm to our oceans. I started looking at the different fish breeds that we were pulling up and how they were diminishing across the ocean. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. There's more, which we won't even start going into right now. There is far more. But I was like, we are causing more harm than we are gaining anywhere in the world by eating meat products. So I went straight vegetarian with the goal of eventually, again, I'd give myself plenty of time to transition, with the goal of eventually going into a vegan diet. So, and that's, there you go.
Gotcha. No, I think that helps set the table, if you will, for our meaty discussion here.
Oh, but I'm bummed. Unfair jab.
So yeah, we've kind of predetermined some categories, and we're going to start with health or weight loss. And yeah, sure, I'll go first. And I think personally, a lot of the stuff I think with diet, as far as my perspective goes, is very kind of personal and perspective based. And I think with weight loss, my philosophy is mostly caloric math. So if you consume more calories, whatever kind of calories, then your body will consume, then you will not lose weight. So that's the basis of my philosophy. How it relates to carnivore versus vegan is typically calories. To get the amount of protein, your calories are going to be excessively high compared to lean cuts of meat. So you can easily get, and I have some graphs here for animal protein. Let's say you have 3 ounces of steak, you'll get 25 grams of protein that is super satiating and will keep you full. So you wouldn't eat as much, you wouldn't overeat. Now you compare that to something like black beans, you'll get 25 grams of protein, but it would take you almost 400 calories. That's 2.5 times the amount of calories to get that same amount of protein. So I do believe, and it's been shown over and over again, vegans can lose weight, but I think it's because you have to eat so much filler that you basically are malnutritioned and are losing weight.
All right. How many, going off of that, how many calories are in 1 ounce of fat?
I don't have the fat breakdown, but this is not a lean cut of protein.
So fat is in all meat.
Correct.
Yeah.
But
It's
but
nine.
this
It's 9.
173 calories is including the fat.
It's 9.
9 calories in fat. That's great.
That's great. Except any carb is only 3 to 4.
You're saying one single carb is 3 to 4. But that doesn't mean anything because what's a carb? Carb is just energy. Fat is just energy.
Mm-hmm. That's across the board.
Okay, so
Any carb.
okay.
Okay. Take 1 carb
Yeah.
versus 1 fat. 9 versus 3 to 4.
Okay.
So you're less, it's like half.
Right, but what? So that doesn't really. If you're measuring calories, then it just balances out. Like you're eating a 3,000 calorie diet, whether it's carbs or fat, doesn't really matter. So.
So it does. So here's one of the studies that was done. This is one of the ones that was done by the Physicians Committee, and as you can see, they put them on a weight control diet. All right. So it was no animal products. Okay. And they minimized oils because oils also contain fats. Right. So, and what they did was a 14-week study. So, and in this 14-week and in the slides, you'll be able to see all of the different studies. You can actually pull them. They're all of them are annotated. You can pull all these studies.
Great. I'll give you the notes for my studies as well.
Sweet. So these were the groups. They could eat fruits, grains, legumes, and vegetables. That was what they could eat. Now, mind you, that was in any order. That means you could eat as much pasta as you wanted to. There was actually no control units, so you could have as much as you want. So if you wanted 10 servings of whatever, you could.
Right.
So there was absolutely no, as much as you want. No limitations.
Okay.
All right. So on that, these were their typical meals right here. So that include for breakfast everything from blueberry pancakes or oatmeal with cinnamon raisins, half a cantaloupe, rye toast with jam. For lunch, you're looking at chunky vegetable chili, garden salad with sesame dressing. Snacks were things like bananas. They also included other any fruits were on this actually.
Okay.
Dinners were lentil soups with crackers, linguine with artichoke hearts and soured oyster mushrooms. There's no oysters in those, by the way. Steamed broccoli. So this was just typical. And there's a lot more. No portion control whatsoever.
Okay.
So, and in this study, they started finding out that the average result was 13 pounds of weight loss across 14 weeks, and that was without portion control.
Okay. Well, what were the start of the participants of this? Were they all obese?
All of them were ladies who had tried. They're all over menstruation, so that was done.
Okay.
And all of them had tried every diet. So these were women who had tried Atkins, South Beach, keto, and all of them had unsuccessful. All of them had unsuccessful weight loss.
Gotcha.
This is the only diet they had ever involved themselves in where they lost weight.
These participants. Well,
Yep.
I do think a lot of the show
Now,
is going to be.
It's better. It gets better.
Okay.
So on this diet, not only did they, after 14 weeks, did they lose the 13 pounds, they improved their insulin sensitivity, which that's huge if you're diabetic. So they improved their insulin sensitivity. On top of that, for the next 2 years, they continued to lose weight every month
on this diet.
And that's with no portion control whatsoever.
Yeah, and but
now in this study,
yeah.
to finish this off, in medical history, this is the only diet that has ever worked over a 2-year period for continued weight loss, and that is now marked in the medical journals.
All right. So I haven't seen a study that's over 2 years, but I've seen plenty of studies that have weight loss success that are omnivoric or carnivoric.
Yes.
I have one here from PubMed that a very low carbohydrate keto diet improved all metabolic measures, including insulin sensitivity and particularly visceral fat reduction, which is super important for health and resisting disease. And every single participant also resulted in weight loss.
Yeah. So one of the reasons for that is vegetables, of course, are very high in fiber, right? Very high in fiber. So the good thing is, and they're mixing it up, right? They're eating as much rice as they want, as much noodles as they want. They preferred whole grain, right? If they eat breads, they said you can eat white, but we prefer if you don't, please try to eat things like rye and pumpernickel, things that take your body longer to digest and are higher in nutrients, right? So, but they didn't restrict it. They were allowed to if they wanted to.
Okay.
So they even said if you want Twizzlers, eat Twizzlers. That's vegan. So, and they did. So
you're saying your perspective on this is because there was no animal fat and it was all heavy carbs. Even if it was Twizzlers, 100% Twizzlers.
No. Twizzlers were just.
I was say you threw a detour with that Twizzler comment that might have taken it in a different
Twizzlers
direction.
were not in the diet.
Okay, yeah,
they did
see the extrapolation here,
but they were allowed to occasionally grab some if they wanted to. So
yeah,
they weren't actually in the
I'm
diet.
not familiar with that study, but it does if you're saying all of this stuff, including plenty of processed foods, were on that list, crackers, but there was no portion control of that.
No portion control.
I'd be curious.
And
I'm a little
There's
skeptical.
no way that could be sustainable.
Oh, it is 100%. Again, this is a 2-year study.
Sustainable how though?
It's a 2-year
As a
study
long-term
right here.
health-
You can actually pull it right there.
We should call all
It's a
the
2-year
studies
study.
and find out how they're
For
doing now.
for maybe that group,
Postmenopausal,
maybe
Yep, this has been replicated across the
for
country.
those specific women
who lost 13 pounds and for 2 years kept losing weight.
Yep.
Look, I'm
Yeah,
honestly,
exactly. How
I'm
much
honestly
weight do
on
they
the
have
fence
to
about the whole
lose?
thing, honestly. But I
very
cannot see any diet that says, look, no portion control being a part of your tenets of your pillars of whatever it is you're building this
It is.
ideology from.
But here's why. Here's what you're not receiving. Ready?
Okay.
If most of your diet is vegetables and fruits, and you're supplementing it with rice and noodles, all right.
You didn't say most of their diet
that's
was
different.
vegetables and fruits.
That's different.
So, yes. Now they were allowed. Again, they were allowed to eat spaghetti and stuff whenever they wanted to, and they did. All right, but they did simply say, "We please ask you to make sure that you include vegetables with your meal."
Okay.
Okay, so
I can accept that as a premise because I think any time you switch from a unregulated diet to a whole foods diet, you're going to lose weight for eternity, or at least maintain.
now the fiber itself fills you up pretty quickly. All right, because fiber fills fast, and because of that, you actually end up eating less, and because there's so many nutrients in vegetables and fruits, you end up being less hungry because your body's actually demanding nutrients.
Yeah, I get that.
So
that makes sense.
So fiber and nutrients make you fuller faster.
So I think what you proponents of veganism have to get out the sacred cow. Pun intended.
But I'll bump.
Twinkies and beer is vegan all day long.
Is it?
True.
Yeah.
There's probably animal fat.
No,
in that.
So what I'm saying-
not
okay.
Twinkies, not Twinkies.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
there's probably
pick your
no-
poison, whatever it is. No
I
meat.
don't think the milk's too expensive. It's probably
You know,
powdered sugar and
so just
No,
by
'cause it's
having
gotta
the
sit on a
claim or the
shelf, so
label
there's-
of being a vegan does not mean health.
And that is true.
That's
That's
100%
true.
true.
Yeah, that's 100% true.
Don't. I could eat this can. That's vegan.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Don't.
We're all talking about eating the can. Right? Just,
So
Let me tell you
It's a
something.
great
like-
looking can.
That's
It
the
really
thing to
is.
remember. Saying I'm a vegan does really, you got to separate that from your health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you could be vegan and be like, there's a lot of pet-shaped vegans that don't eat right.
Absolutely.
I could eat, potato chips.
I haven't
you know.
met any bad shaped vegans. They must be too ashamed to say that they're vegan.
I actually have. I have.
So to Russ's point, though, and this is where they did stress that they please. Again, I'm going to go back to the My Plate. All right, so up here, they had to make sure they could replicate this every day. All right, and so they had to make sure they had fruits, grains, legumes, and vegetables. They had to make sure that all four of those things were in their diet every day.
Equal portions.
Not necessarily equal portions.
Even though the plate is split into 4 equal portions.
Not necessarily equal
I'm just
portions.
curious because
But
it,
you
it
did.
does
Like,
seem like you
you did
changed
the
your
cold
tone a little, and that's why I'm just trying to clarify.
No, well, okay. So I threw one thing in there. It's mostly for humor.
I'm good.
But again, they did continue to lose weight for 2 years and without suffering any repercussions whatsoever. So, what's that?
We're passing around the last soldier of that.
Pass
sick,
that sucker
passing it
around.
around.
So,
Does anyone need it?
Pass that beer around.
Because Gumby and I, get a little dry over here.
All right. Now, before we progress to our next part of our subject, a word from our sponsors.
Hey, it's Gumby here from Bible Over Brews. Are you looking to get some editing done in your podcast? Maybe you don't have the hours or time it takes to edit your content, but you still need to get it done. Maybe you need a customized track or a song for your podcast or your next project without having to worry about copyright issues. Well, look no further than soulworkmusic.com, where this footwork is done for you. I'll get that editing, post-production work done right for you, or create you that customized song that fits your project or podcast to help support your life's work. If this sounds like what you need, reach out to me at soulworkmusic.com. Again, that's soulworkmusic.com. And remember, there's nothing taboo over brew.
Okay, so that doesn't really have any relationship to your previous. Well, so the fat versus carbohydrate.
Yep.
But that doesn't really belong in that study though, because were nuts and seeds included?
So yeah, so the nuts and seeds are included, but they are not included on a separate item. Those are included under the proteins. And they asked,
Even though they have plenty of fat.
yes, but here's the thing: they were asked on on seeds and nuts. They were asked to only include a handful, and to put it in their salads or whatever vegetable they had.
Gotcha.
So as a handful, and that's because you still have your good oils, your omegas and stuff.
Yeah.
So you still need a small portion of them. So, but they asked it to be one handful, and they asked it to go inside of their salad or their vegetables or whatever it was.
Gotcha. Yeah, I definitely think
So
limiting the amount of fats and carbs you mix is very important to diet strategy because your body can't process both at the same time, and it has something called a Randall effect, where it'll cause you to not be satiated and overeat, and then your body basically processes carbs first. You have triglycerides in your system, your fat stays in your system longer, and then it tries to process the fat. By then, probably the glycogen is all your stores are full, and it's going to go to fat. So I do think it's very dangerous to mix carbs and fat.
yeah, I agree.
But again, I would just say, like, this diet is more of a whole food. This study seems more of a whole food benefit than it does a protein or meat versus vegan debate.
Well, but I would say a healthy vegan would be a whole foods person. You can't.
I would agree with that, but I would also say a healthy omnivore, a healthy carnivore would be a whole foods person.
Well, we'll get to more of that later because there's reasons why it's not. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Next segment.
Next segment.
Or
Okay,
next whatever you're going to read off. Rather.
I'll put this up. I'll send these to you, and we can publish some of these studies too. But basically, it goes into meat versus vegetable comparisons as far as the protein intake and the caloric consequence.
And again, on that, I would say that you actually end up eating less because you're burning things faster. You're burning things faster because you're not eating with fats. Okay, first off. But on top of that, you're not getting the fats, and the fats are what stay with you.
Because they have more calories.
Yes,
Is
they
that
do.
that's your reasoning behind that?
And it also affects your mitochondrial biogenesis.
Okay.
To repeat that, that's mitochondrial biogenesis.
Well,
That has something to do with Yoda, right?
now I'm awake.
Midichlorian content of these.
So they did find out that, yes, here's another reason, speaking of diet, another reason that people who eat a lot of meat have problems losing weight is because it actually suppresses your mitochondrial biogenesis. And so what happens is you can't burn as fast because you're suppressing it. This is an actual study done right there. You can pull the numbers up.
Yeah, I can pull numbers for plenty of studies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
we're going back into the studies.
I'm going to touch on studies too, but anyway, because there is something to say about that. But this is one that was done, and they did they have their baseline and their high fatty foods right there
Okay.
over, and you can see that it actually was suppressed over the time periods. This is your mitochondrial,
Okay.
okay, and then what happens when you introduce fat? It's hard for that, and it actually suppresses the mitochondrial DNA.
I thought fat was good for your brain.
Depends on what kind of fat.
Your
That's a whole
brain.
other
So
topic.
your micellular,
Saturated or unsaturated, and
your intramicellular lipid. That's your fat. It inside the cell itself, up here, you can see how it actually does suppress the mitochondrial DNA.
I mean, it's a drawing.
I was gonna say like
This relates back to, we're not gonna draw all of these studies out because then we'd be here for like 5 hours. But
Yeah, break this down to.
Yeah,
maybe
I
30.
can't be
don't
here for
understand.
5 hours. I have to go eat a hamburger.
I almost want to say like I agree with you what you're going to tell me about the health benefits of carnivore, and I agree with you with
Yeah.
what you're going to tell me. So why don't we call that one a draw and move on?
Got the weight loss. I do think like we can argue the fat versus carbs because I do think it's a different processing mechanism. But I can pull out for every study you have. I can pull out a keto study or something that's a high fat
yeah,
diet, and
we're gonna
You
go.
can get into like Atkins and all those
Yeah,
things.
but
where
we're gonna go in deeper on
I thought it was
what
just
else
like
the fat's affect.
Calories in,
for weight
calories
loss,
out.
you still on weight loss?
No, we'll move on.
You could
Yeah,
eat
we'll move
Skittles
on. Yeah.
as long as you're within a certain amount of calories, right?
well, I mean,
And, like,
if you
lose
wanna
weight
go
on
for
Skittles.
loss, yeah, if you want to talk like mathematically, yes, you could look at those, but then again, you got to see what the calories are because your body's not going to be able to sustain on Skittles.
Well, you know what I mean.
yeah.
Example, like
Yes,
whatever
mathematically
you
speaking,
eat, and if you are within this certain range,
You could live on Skittles for a while. You would be malnutrition. But yeah, you're right. Because that's a strict carbohydrate.
example.
And that's an energy source. So you have basically 2 energy sources. You can count protein as a macro, but really you have 2 efficiently processed. Maybe carbs burn a little faster in the mitochondria, but you have carbs or fat. And protein will turn into carbohydrate just at a lower rate, which is also good for sustenance and maintaining, but it's not as efficient for quick energy. You think protein is as efficient for quick energy?
No.
Oh, I was kind of giving you a bone there. I was like, carbs are quicker for energy.
It's definitely the gas in your engine.
Yeah, and that's why, again, when you mix fat and protein, your body will use carbohydrates first for the quick. It's easier for it to process.
Yeah.
But then again, it doesn't stay satiated because now it's like, oh, glycemic spike and ready to eat more.
Right. All right. What you got? What you got?
So now we're moving to heart health, and this is where I'm sure Aaron's drooling over this one. This is where all the vegans try to pin their hat.
Go ahead.
So I would just say a lot of the studies, they do show certain things, but a lot of that was based off a 1950 study as far as heart health causing cardiovascular disease. And most of that has been now determined non-conclusive, not statistically relevant. And I have probably about 5 studies here from PubMed and U.S. National Library of Medicine, going over the meta-analysis as well as some studies showing that it's inconclusive and it's really not statistically relevant for both saturated fat and cholesterol. Dietary cholesterol really doesn't have any effect on the overall cholesterol your body stores because that's regulated by the liver.
Oh, okay. The trouble is with that.
I can tell by the tone of your okay.
Yeah, this is the one that they all think. Most vegans.
So the trouble is
"Okay,
that most of
my
these
agenda time."
studies are actually sponsored by things like the Dairy Management Incorporated, Beef, Adkins. Most of these studies are based towards that. In fact, if you look at the sponsorships,
Right.
you'll find out industry finances almost all of them.
Yeah, I can't really read some of that, but I think that's
riveting.
If you look at
Here's a few of them right
if
here.
you look at the money sponsors and
I am
or
on the
like the
edge
American
of my
Heart
seat.
Association, it is dairy, meat. They're like the main contributors to financially to the Heart Association. So like if you go into the American Heart Association healthy meal things, one of the meals is beef stew. Like it's not a healthy meal, but again, you have to look at. I mean, you can Google this right now. Who are the main sponsors? And so it's like, okay, if I'm going to sell $1 billion of beef, I got to get this thing looking good for you. So hey, Heart Association, here's $10 million. Make it a beef, a part of that pyramid you're making, and make it sound like it's part of your diet.
The one thing I'll give to them is that they did do an actual study with a doctors group, and after that they labeled red meat as a carcinogen. So
Right. So are you saying they shouldn't have labeled red meat as?
oh no, it should be.
No. See, I disagree because if you look at that study particularly, over a quarter of the panel were ethical vegans. Talk about conflict of interest, and then they came back and they asked them to declare it. And out of like 50,000 articles that they reviewed, they only chose like 18. And they cherry picked evidence to prove their point. So talk about bias.
That study is actually one of those right there. So these studies right here are all bought by the meat industry.
I don't think so. I would say
You're looking at them.
You might be throwing in agriculture.
You're looking
as well.
at them.
So these are but I'm not. This is the first time seeing it, so I don't know exactly what this chart of names is.
There's a whole.
So it goes to these 12 studies you're talking about.
Oh, there's more. This is only the first page.
Okay,
I didn't
you
put
have
them,
no
I didn't put them all up
comment
here.
on
I didn't put them all up there.
on the one that you just cited, calling red meat carcinogen or whatever genetic, where the ethical vegans on the panel did not, even though they would have bias that they didn't have to claim in the article, that can't be traced back to other agriculture. that's not a problem for you. That's just fine.
No, you know what? I'll give it to you that I think that there should be unbiased studies and they should be founded strictly on a medical board.
Or they should list their biases.
Well, it should be like a panel of at least pescatarians. People who have both sides to the equation.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not somebody who's just completely a raw vegan versus someone who's just eating wings for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah. And that's what I do think there are valid studies.
Yeah.
Now I can go look through. I mean, a lot of these that I did pull, they didn't have conflict of interest.
But if you look,
I don't have a nice chart to put up there, but I can hand you a piece of paper.
But if you look at most of these studies, so here's the authors and here's some of the years, and this again, I only have a couple of them. I didn't put them all up here, just to give you an example. These.
So your most current study is 2010.
No, this is only one page. Right. I didn't have time to put them all
and
up
these
here.
are all sponsored by the meat industry, is what you're saying?
Meat, egg, dairy, yeah. So it also turns out that 92% of all studies are sponsored by those industries.
But what does that have to do? What does that have to do?
Follow the money. What is Gumby always say? Follow the money, right?
Yeah, but so your whole crutch, your whole crutch for the evidence is that some evidence of the study that we have is flawed because of bias. Yet the other studies, like, you're not really showing data. You're just giving me reasons why I should question some of the data that's out there.
So the links for all of these will be included. And we could.
What I'm saying is the argument is more of an ad hominem than anything else. Is like you're trying to invalidate things.
Not really.
What does that mean?
So
is when you're not really fighting the argument.
So,
you're trying to give people reason to doubt.
So you're not seeing the correlation between all the studies that say meat is good are sponsored by the meat industry, and the fact that when physicians do it, they say meat's not good. I mean, there's a correlation there.
Okay, well, correlation doesn't mean result. Anyways, you can correlate.
I see it both
lightning strikes, based on number of women born in Sweden.
Saying that meat is not good.
How many physicians have you talking to about this?
How many have you talked to? I mean, I don't regularly hear them say.
None of us are doctors on this panel, so please don't follow our advice without consulting.
You know what I was going to say?
Yes.
Should we have a disclaimer right about now?
There should definitely be a disclaimer on
medical
this.
Advice.
Please make sure you see your doctor.
You know what? No, you listen to me.
I'm going with Dr. Gumby.
So I would say here's some data that I have.
Right.
Using my logic, because let's just say we can't trust studies then. Okay, so if that's your argument, I can't trust my studies. Let's just look at historical data then. And so if red meat consumption peaked in 1971, okay,
all right,
in America, and has been going down steadily since 1971, we eat almost 1/3 less red meat than we did back then. And now we consume 71% of our calories in plant-based foods. So we're trending plant-based. Now we're up to nearly 40% of adults are obese today, up from just 15% from the 1970s. And from, it's increased 5-fold in diabetes from 1975 to 2015. So you want to talk about correlation?
Well, wait a minute, yeah,
I know where you're going, and that's good.
I don't know where that's going because okay, that I'm going to need to know why there's a correlation between diabetes and.
So what was
less
the average?
eating?
What was the average cheese
Is it
consumption?
more processed because the processed food has gone through the roof?
In the 1950s and 1930s, what was the average cheese consumption per year of the Native American? I'm sorry, native-born Americans.
You tell me.
It was approximately 3 pounds a year.
Okay.
That's
what years is it?
In the 1950s, 1930s, or 1950s, and going into the 1960s. Then we introduced more pizza, right? And we introduced more cheeseburgers. Now the average American eats well over 33 pounds of cheese per year.
Wow.
Well, let me tell you something. You're going to go down the highway of, and I mentioned but you're going to go down the highway of like shit all food all over the place. Like we could blow this.
But this is
vegan carnivore conversation into a million different directions if we're going to talk about just standard dietary stuff and everything that people are eating in relation to diabetes. Sedentary lifestyle. No one's in the fields working farms anymore. Everyone's sitting on their ass doing nothing. So you got that factor. So there's going to be a lot of factors that go into diabetes. Appreciated, but I don't know if we can stay down this lane of carnivore versus vegan and diabetes. I think that'd be like
Actually, it's directly related.
This is exactly what I'm combating, Russ. Like you said it
directly
perfectly,
related.
because they take correlation and they assign it to meat, and I propose a correlation and he assigns it to bullshit. You know, like it's
But
just,
it's not.
It's right. And
It's
so
directly
you can
related.
keep saying it's not
Would there be any correlation to bad meat?
to bad meat.
Yeah, and let me be more specific about bad meat. Let's just talk about a cow.
Mm-hmm.
Cow that are fed steroids, etc., etc.
Well,
You know,
yeah.
versus an all
They got
organic,
genetics, man.
healthy cow. You know what I mean? So
Right.
if they're only using that industry cow, let's call it that.
Well,
you
hell,
know,
they could have pulled a rotted cow out of the ground and said, "Eat this, and see what happens."
What
You
I'm
know,
saying
like-
is, if everything is based off of that, and the studies are based off of that kind of meat, then yeah, of course you're gonna call it carcinogens, whatever.
Right, and there's not a ton of studies done on organic and properly raised meat.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're
And
right
if,
there.
and if America's consumption is based off steroids, then yeah, I mean,
Well, now you're getting into the sustainability,
So-
and there's no way because you can't grow the animals at the rate that they would
are.
normally live to get to
Right.
those things. You have
That's-
to accelerate. You have
That's
to.
true, but even plant-based
Right.
foods, I mean, animals are going to die, aren't they?
Yes.
Well, I'm agree with that. Wait till the animals naturally die, and then you could eat them
But
all
then
day
they
long.
don't taste as good.
So essentially, there's no free lunch.
There is blood on everybody's plate.
Yeah. All right.
So my point for bringing that up is not to say it's a vegan diet, but I'm saying if you're going to use correlation, but yet meat consumption has decreased drastically over the past several, tens of years, then
Yeah. But cheese consumption went up.
I mean you're giving cheeseburgers and
Just
pizza.
because everyone knows how good
Yeah.
it tastes now.
Okay, so I have another study here. What is the longest
Take
living?
it.
Well, no, we're getting into other things, but this is related to dairy and meat consumption as far as more correlation. What's the country that has the longest longevity right now?
There's 3 different countries that were all
there's
cited.
number one.
But go ahead.
So Hong Kong is the number one average longevity,
Really?
and their meat has been going up steadily as they pass Japan for the number one meat consumers, and their dairy has been going up, and their pork has been going up. Yet they've become the longest living average country in the world.
What
Well, you talking? Well, then you get the per capita
Ish.
numbers when they got a bazillion people. Like they're gonna pad, the stats, right?
No, I think
Well,
that makes the number more
But
accurate.
and it's not just about what you put in your food, your mouth, determining how long you live. It's like,
Exactly.
well, how happy are you? What's your what's your quality of life?
So
you know?
that's the vegan argument, or that's the carnivore argument or defense that everything's being pinned on red meat via correlation. But you look at all those other correlations, and they're not allowed to hold water.
Right.
So that's what I mean. There's so
I
much
saw
hypocrisy.
this thing years ago
So-
about a country, a little island in Greece called Icaria, and everyone was like living to like 100. If you died at 90, people like frowned upon you.
Right.
But it looked like they were eating meat.
They
It just
do eat a
looked
lot
like
of
they
meat.
were happy and they
So-
were like taking more time for themselves.
So is that an actual study that you're citing?
There is a
It's not
study.
an actual study, but there
Leave
probably
Icaria
is.
alone. I love their counting.
The funny thing about that study is they pitched the Icaria or whatever as mostly plant-based, but the problem is their language, if you say meat, only refers to cow. So there was a little bit of translation. People that have gone there and lived there, they're like, I can't even eat any more dairy. I'm just so dairied out, and they do eat meat, and they eat a lot of different types of meat, chicken and pork, and they don't consider it meat, so.
I want to see
do
that
think a
study.
lot-
So for the non meat eaters, let me ask this question then. Let's say I choose a strict plant-based diet, whether that's vegan or not, but just plant-based foods. If those plant-based foods are laced with pesticides, if they are grown from Monsanto seeds, etc., how healthy are those for you in the long run?
Well, here's the trouble with that argument. You can't make that because if you eat the meat, you are still getting that.
Not necessarily.
Well, yeah.
Oh yeah,
No.
the general public. The general public. Yes.
Yeah, so this
Yes.
is where it gets convoluted because
Because now you're getting into the organic conversations and the farm raised and all that kind of
Right,
stuff.
but what I'm saying, can I even be misled myself as a plant-based person if I'm
Now,
eating completely
Before we go too far,
pesticide?
before we go too
laced
far on that,
plants?
I still want to finish on the diabetes thing. only one study has ever been successful in reversing it.
Reversing diabetes.
Reversing diabetes. Okay? And that has been through Dr. Neil Bernard and the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. They are, you can cite this, they are now the #1 institute for reversing diabetes. All right? You have to believe me, go to pcrm.org.
Well, I mean, I don't believe you, but I can say there's plenty of unequal ones
But
that
they
have.
Looks so weird.
this has been so prevalent that the government is now using them. In fact,
So
now
okay,
hold on.
so you just ripped on the government as
hold
far
on,
as okay.
hold on. In fact, did you see how they switched to My Plate from the food pyramid to My Plate?
Yeah.
That's because of Neil Bernard. Okay, so
Right, which is
all right,
part of
so-
the reason why I'm upset at veganism trying to perpetuate these
It looks
lies
like
is
a
because they
ravioli.
have infiltrated
It's a
the
shape of
government
the-
and created the My Plate, which is
so it's actually responsible.
I mean,
So
right?
it's-
little
But I
chicken
mean, you
nugget
cite
or
the
something.
meat and dairy, which is
the
funded by the
food
government.
pyramid was solely based on
Made out
industry.
of
It wasn't based on
plants.
what you should eat.
I mean, it's
It was solely based on industry, and that was proven over and over again. It was the lobbyists.
Yeah, but so you're saying this one guy, you don't think that bias is any noteworthy?
It was reviewed by everybody
Yeah.
because it's not just him, right? It has to be reviewed by medical boards. So,
coffee in the
and it
morning.
was reviewed by medical boards. They found it sound, and so they instituted it.
I mean, they're
So-
using keto a lot for people with diabetes because it helps with insulin sensitivity. Now, is there a study that I know of that says, okay, well, this has been worked? I know plenty of studies that talk about insulin sensitivity improving, and I know a lot of unequal ones, a lot of people that have dropped their diabetes medication
Yeah,
because of that, and
They-
they're not vegans.
they have
or
over a 60% success rate in reversing diabetes.
over 60%. So
Go look at their studies.
6 out of 10 people.
Don't take my word for
Well, all
it.
I'm saying is 60%. I mean, that's
That's actually good.
six
That's
out of
great.
10. But it's one study going one thing, and what we've kind of determined across most of the show is there's more than one way to skin a cat in this sort of thing. And since we're seeing other results, these studies are very expensive and very hard, especially a controlled study. Most of the studies are done in hindsight, where
By the way, we do not endorse eating cat.
or skinning cats. I mean, no, I only eat ruminants. But yeah, so I think a lot of these studies are done via survey and aren't super accurate, and it takes millions of dollars. So
It does.
That's the reason why a lot of these studies wouldn't be, super. You can't hang your hat on studies.
what is this?
Look in the real world and see what's working, and look at yourself and see what's working. So you can cite these studies, but I can also refer you to many people who have
All the
reversed
ones,
their diabetes.
all the ones I'm referring to are control groups. So they had general population control groups,
Yeah.
and then they had usually a third party because you need three.
Right.
Yeah. So
But what I'm saying is those were very expensive, and you can't
yeah.
really have lots of them. I mean, there's a carnivore study being put up to right now, but they're raising money. They still have a while to go to get to their 2 million Kickstarter. You can go to meatrx.com and kind of find out how to contribute. But they want to do a long-term control study because there's just not very reputable studies.
I've seen fork over knives where didn't people on there reverse their diabetes or something like that, or it was cancer or something. I don't know what it was, but something I think it was diabetes and it was reversed. So my father died when he was 55 from diabetes. My wife's father died when he was 51 from diabetes. And looking at their lives, honestly, and I don't mean to make it so melancholy or drink the beer. It wasn't just because of meat. It was processed sugars. It was fried bread. It was rice.
It was absolute abuse of
It was-
food and on all
Yeah.
facets, is what
Yeah.
you're saying.
And fry it, and then fry it. Pick it, and
fried
then
cheese
fry it.
and fried.
Fry,
everything.
bananas are healthy, right? Plantains, but man, when you put them plantains in deep fried oil,
Right.
Yeah.
so it wasn't just the meat. And I don't think if they would have cut out just the meat, I think both my father-in-law and my father still would have died.
Gotcha.
Well, there's abuse that comes in all shapes, and again,
Yeah.
you could put that sugar right up there with the meat. You could put the alcohol. You could put a lot of things right in line. Well, sorry, not with the meat. I didn't. Nothing's wrong with the meat.
No, you can't abuse it.
But yeah, you could put a lot of those things right there. And,
there are a lot
and
of
again,
other
you know,
factors.
I don't have an issue with gout. Do you have an issue with gout?
No.
No. You have an issue with gout. Okay, so there's a
anymore.
study and a result and a
Right.
and a thing, you know, to point to. So again,
Right.
you guys are working hard, and I feel a little bit way underachiever because I'm seeing your pack of studies here. And I see Juice with his. For Christ, no, wait, sorry. I don't
This
wanna say
is
that.
his
For God's
non-study.
sake, I know. I mean, I'm looking at slides and studies, and you know, basically, this is Mike and Juice right here going back and forth with study sabers.
Right, and I'm over here like.
And
I
we're
just see
sitting
my
here like
feeling.
eating these. I'm eating this vegan Chinese
I don't know what that
and I'm like,
was.
I'll live on this the rest of my life because it was really good.
Not bad.
I
huh?
couldn't read it, but it tasted really good.
Yeah, so this one is based in soybeans. It's actually really good, and this one I believe was that one mung. This one might be mung bean, but they were
But that's the other thing too. Like, and you had mentioned earlier, you know, the soy, and there's just like anything else. There's things that are vegan, but they're not necessarily good for you. Like if I'm in the market to make a buck off of a vegan. Quickly, what can I put together? Soy. Oh, shit, soy. Okay, here we go. I got soy out the ass. I got soy patties. I got soy nuggets. I got soy this.
Yeah.
You can't eat a lot of soy. Fuck you. I'm going to sell all this soy. All right, so now you got soy. Then I'm feeling like shit.
Oh, the soy.
The next thing you know, soy's on the radar for, soy's such a problem. Well, that's all I'm eating because I can get this awesome would-be hamburger. I've been eating meat all my life. Now all of a sudden I want a burger. Now I'm eating soy patties. I mean, so yeah.
But is that
you're gonna
okay? So why are they always trying to make the non-meat food resemble meat?
They want to convert.
well
because you have to
it's to help with
understand.
transition.
Okay, let me preclude this entire evening to let you know that I was a voracious carnivore up until the 7 years ago or 8 years ago that I started this. So believe me, I understand the appeal of rifling down steaks and burgers and wings and pork chops and breakfast sausage. Jesus, breakfast sausage. You know, if I said I do not miss any of this, no, I miss it all. Believe me, I live my whole life. Like I guarantee you, the Northeast Ohio market of frozen chicken breasts and wings and burgers like dipped in Northeast Ohio 7 years ago. No one's figured it out since. Like, what the hell's going on in Northeast Ohio? It's because I stopped eating meat. I'm telling you, because you know those $13 bags of chicken breasts. I mean, every time I went to the store, it's like I'll just throw it in there just because that's a staple. I gotta have the chicken breast. Anyway, so believe me, I'm not this type of vegetarian vegan, guys. I don't see your view. Piss off. You're wrong. I mean, I was there and I did it.
You are touching on something that is often a quote-unquote sore spot for both, vegans and carnivores. Like they're like, well, soy's bad for you. Now, that's not 100% true. If you have non-processed, organic, which, by the way, I'm going to put a big shout-out right in here to the Cleveland soy company because they only have organically based tofu. So that's boom. Cleveland tofu, awesome for you.
Buy local.
All right. So, but there is a correlation with cheese. Again,
What are we still on? Because we switched from
So,
heart health to diabetes.
We
really
still
quick.
got to make our Bible
did you make
reference
your
to
final-
tie this back in a
Did you
Bible
finally
reference.
do the diabetes? Did you guys conclude the diabetes lane?
so
I will say I agree that
That's where I was
diabetes
finishing.
can be reversed on a vegan diet, but that has no relevance to meat.
all right.
You guys, I think I'm going to give it a
Yeah,
shot.
I could buy that.
I mean, I'm
For
going
like
to be okay
maybe
with
at
that.
least 2
let me
hours.
before you say it, I know where you. So you pass that Wendy's on the way home, and it's
No,
like
no, no.
no. Let me tell
But
you something.
seriously,
and
20 spicy chicken nuggets for $5? No, I'm just kidding. That's
Dude.
garbage food.
and I, as soon as Gumby said this at the beginning, I wanted to make this point where he said like, oh, well, I tried it and I felt like shit. Okay, how did you try it? Like, what did you do? Like, did you just go and then just eat whatever was not me? Like, I would recommend if you do want to try being a vegan or try being a vegetarian, you have to do some upfront research. I wouldn't do it the way I did it, which was like I said, the moral compass, and I flipped the switch, and I didn't have a plan. I just said, I'm jumping into this, not doing it anymore. So yes, I could say that I, to this day, even 7 years later, 8 years later, I still don't do it right. But that could be a factor because there are some people that, if there is some work to it, that you have to kind of learn about the balance of the diet. So, you're very astute with what you need and how you need it and everything, and that's great. Just when you become a vegan, you have to do that because you are replacing something maybe that your body's had, or you have to find those nutrients somewhere. So I definitely say if you are gonna, it does take a little bit of work. I effing hate cooking, and there is a company called Vistro.
I love it.
That delivers you vegan meals. So I literally don't come over and say, cook me a good meal, buddy. Let me see how that tastes. No, I will not do that.
I will cook for you when you come over.
Yeah.
I actually enjoy cooking.
I have more people that aren't vegan telling me, you got to let me cook for you because I literally I get bistro meals.
It comes in a box.
It comes in a box, and it's I get like shepherdless pie and Latin stew and
Ooh.
country fried chicken and barbecue, and I get all these meals that are total vegan meals, but they're sent to me, and I just heat them up or oven them up, and it's like a godsend. So if you have the financial means to do that, great. They give you everything you need. But if you're going to just say, I'm going to be a vegan, do some homework, do some research, because again, you might feel like complete ass because you are not doing it right.
Join us for the rest of the conversation in part 2.